Zambia's President-elect Hakainde Hichilema says that his administration will be categorized by fairness and service delivery. Delivering his election victory speech in Lusaka, Hichilema says that his priorities will include rebuilding the economy, uniting the nation, and creating space for media freedom. The UPND leader won the presidential election with more than 2.8 million votes over the incumbent President Edgar Lungu's 1.8 million. Hichilema also thanked his predecessor for graciously conceding and calling for unity whilst promising change and a better life for citizens.
President Edgar Lungu, I want to thank you, sir, for your message, for conceding defeat, and for indicating that you will support a smooth transition. Those that voted for us and those that did not vote for us, you will be treated equally, equitably, fairly. That's important to us. And I'm proud of the voters of Zambia. Amen. Across the country.
Well, for some analysis on how this historic Zambian election unfolded and the way forward for the country, we're now joined by the Executive Director at the Center for Policy Dialogue in Zambia, Dr. Neo Simutanyi. Dr. Simutanyi, thank you so much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. Thank you very much. Good evening.
All right. So, for some people, this has been a long time coming for Hakainde Hichilema, but for opposition politics, this is the third time that we've seen a transition from a ruling party to an opposition leader. What does that tell us about Zambia and its democracy?
I think it shows maturity in the Zambian democracy. The ability of citizens to change their governments regularly, I think, shows that the Zambian electorate has matured. This was done in 2011. Of course, the margin was not that large. We also saw it in 1991. So this is the third time the opposition is coming to power. And also, I think it shows that it is possible for elected leaders to be removed from office through the ballot box. So I think this is really a very good moment for Africa. This is a good lesson for our neighboring countries that actually the real masters are the voters, they are the people. And when they are not satisfied with the performance of the government, they will always remove it. This also shows a resilience of our political institutions, because elections are an institution, So those that manage the elections, all the arrangements that go with elections show that it was possible to actually deliver a credible result. I wouldn't say it was free and fair, but at least the result itself is credible.
What were the challenges that you saw that you wouldn't want to label it as free and fair?
The run-up to the election was characterized by restrictions on opposition politicians from campaigns or rallies or public meetings of opposition parties, especially the main opposition, were not actually allowed. And the COVID-19 was used in a way that disadvantaged the opposition. Hakainde Hichilema was prevented from flying to Eastern Province. He was denied an flying airline, I don't know what to call it, permit to fly. He was denied entry into Nakonde. The police blocked his entry into that city. He was denied, permission or permit to go and campaign in the Copperbelt province. He had a scheduled meeting in Copperbelt province, but it could not take place. And he was forced to even travel by road when he could fly into some parts of Zambia. All that shows that the playing field was not fair. And there are many other things that happened where it was difficult. Lusaka, for example, the rallies of UPND were cancelled. They are not allowed to campaign. So there were so many of those things. But what happened, despite all these odds, and this not only happened during this election time, from 2017 or 2016 after elections, the ruling party continued campaigning, but did not allow the opposition to campaign. Most opposition leaders, including Mr. Hichilema himself, were arrested several times for just having indoor meetings. They were not allowed to actually campaign. They were thrown in jail. He himself was actually arrested in 2017 in April, and he kept at a maximum security prison for a very, very flimsy reason. That actually had not given way to the president's motorcade. And yet, in many countries, when the president motorcade passes, they stop everybody. This particular instance, the president motorcade did not have police sweepers who normally stop vehicles from moving to allow the entourage or the motorcade to pass. So that itself, was really, and they charged him with treason for that. So he said himself that he was imprisoned 15 times, between 2016 and this last time. So that itself shows you that it was not playing field. And during this campaign, he was labeled all kinds of things. The campaign itself was characterized with great assassination, and it was very dirty, which we don't normally find in a proper democracy. So it was against all these odds that tens and thousands of Zambians, hundreds of thousands of Zambians decided that they should exercise their vote. And we saw a large turnout of young people. And I think this was really a vote for change. But most importantly, this time around, there was so much vigilance, which prevented manipulation of the vote. The young people made sure that it was not possible to ballot staff or to do anything that will change the result.
What now for the Patriotic Front? Because what we've seen in previous years is that once a ruling party has been ousted, they rarely come back.
Indeed, I think the Patriotic Front is going to die. The signals are there. It does not even have, unlike MMD, which held together for a while, I think the Patriotic Front will disintegrate very quickly. The reason is that it was factions. One of the reasons why Hichilema performed very well in Eastern Province, Muchinga, Luapula, Copperbelt, and Lusaka, which were all the time considered to be PF strongholds, is because of factionalism within the Patriotic Front. It is very split internally, split over the choice of vice president. It is split over the decision by President Lungu to stand for a third term, and it was split over the entry of MMD, former MMD people into his ranks. So all those differences within the party formed factions, and these factions reached a point where, and you see, when they had the convention, President Lungu handpicked people instead of having elections. He handpicked people to be in Central Committee. And some of these people came from other parties like UPND, and they are rewarded with the member Central Committee positions. They are rewarded with adoptions to stand on Patriotic Front ticket. So this annoyed some of and most of the MMD, of the PF supporters. So this discontent within the PF may also affect the cohesion of the party out of government. And the fact that most of its supporters, most of its sympathizers, depended on government for contracts, they depended on government for handouts, these empowerment funds, which were distributed to, loyal members of the party, and of course, the people we call cadres, the party cadres. So they received regular disbursements from the state under the guise of what they called youth empowerment. So these people who are used to getting these handouts may not actually accept to be in a situation where they are not able to have link with the state. So many of them will go in droves to the UPND, and we were already seeing a number of prominent figures indicating their willingness to work with the President Hichilema. So we should expect a number of resignations from top people to the high-profile people from the Patriotic Front to the UPND, and this may happen even before the inauguration. So within a month or within a year or so, even some members of parliament who are Patriotic Front may actually defect to UPND. This has happened. It's something which we have witnessed over the years. We saw it with MMD. We have seen it with UNIP. It has been a very common occurrence that whenever the change of government, those who were in the ruling party end up actually joining the opposition. The PF, as it stands today, the time before Parliament was dissolved, had a lot of former MMD ministers, former MMD members in its ranks. So we should expect PF to also do that. Of course, UPND got 81 seats and PF 63. So at least there's some slight balance of power. The UPND will not have the arrogance of numbers, which is a good thing. They don't have the outright two-thirds majority. But the fact that PF has been a very indisciplined political party, I don't think they'll actually hold together for a long time.
The weight of expectation must be enormous on President-elect Hichilema's shoulders. And I suppose there are some things that he has to do quickly if people are to keep the faith. What are those things?
There are several. I think the first one is ensuring that the cadres, the party cadres who were terrorizing the markets, bus stations, are actually controlled, and that the markets go rightfully to the councils that normally regulate the trading there. That should be one of the first things that they should do, so that there's a bit of sanity with the manner in which trading takes place. Because the trading places have been highly politicized. That to be able to trade, you need to belong to the ruling party, and that has really been very a toxic kind of experience. But also the unruly behavior of ruling party cadres. The PF cadres were very unruly. They were untouchable. They harassed everybody. They harassed even civil servants. They harassed the police. The police were afraid of them. So we hope that the rule of law will be restored, and that people respect the police, law enforcement as such. They will not actually. Because what will happen that the cadres were so strong that even the Inspector General of Police was afraid of them. We don't want that to end, I think. The second thing, I think, is the economy itself. There's so much unemployment. The youth are expecting Mr. Hichilema to deliver on his promises, for jobs, but also in education. The previous government removed, or the outgoing government removed meal allowances for university students. That has been very unpopular, and I think also that was a contributing factor to the anger of the youth against the ruling party. But we're expecting him to also deal with the mines. I think the mines have been mismanaged. There are two large mining groups, mining companies there that are really, that need to be sorted out. Coca-Cola mines in Chingola and the Mopani, which have been nationalized, but nationalized in a context where the government doesn't have money. Nationalized in a context where we have over $12 billion in debt. Nationalized in a context where the state is unable to service for a $2 million Eurobond loan that was supposed to be paid, which was due November last year. So in a situation where we don't even have the money, it is not justified that actually the government can take over, failing companies like the Mopani copper mines and KCM. So what we expect is that quickly, before it's too long, he will be able to invite international investors to be able to capitalize those companies so that there are more jobs. But also, of course, it's just to instill investor confidence, because it had gone. Our kwacha had depreciated so much. So I think that is another thing that he could do. So people are looking for him to actually sort out the immediate problems. And they voted for him partly so that he solves what he thought they think that has been the problem. One of the things, of course, the last point I'm going to make, I know I'm taking the time, is to ensure that the rights of citizens are restored. We have two newspapers which were closed down. The Post newspaper must come back to circulation. So is prime television has come back to circulation. We want the media to be independent, and we want Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation to be a truly broadcaster like the SABC, to be able to feature all politicians. Yesterday was the first time that NBC featured Hakainde Hichilema on their program. They were not able to feature him, not because they don't want to, but the politicians have been interfering with them, that they could not cover opposition. So we only had one view, only one platform. The ruling party is monopolized our national broadcaster, and we hope that will come to an end as soon as it takes office.
All right. We've run out of time, but one last question. 3rd of February 1960, British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan addressed the South African Parliament, and he warned of a wind of change that was blowing through the continent. Do you get a sense that there's a wind of change that's also blowing through parts of the continent as young people seem to be standing up? We saw it happen in Malawi, we're seeing it happen in Zambia now, that there is a new democracy that's coming through, whether the old guard like it or not.
Indeed. There is a wind of change sweeping not only this part of Africa, but sweeping Africa. Because we've seen it in Sudan, we've seen it in Egypt, we've seen it in Tunisia, we've seen it in many other African countries where democracy has triumphed. And this is what has happened here. But we hope that the message is clear. We hope that the incoming government has got the message, that if they don't actually perform, they will be kicked out. And our new young people are in the age of technology, they're in the age of the internet. So it's true. This was actually a tsunami, a political tsunami that has swept the Patriotic Front out of power. The magnitude of the victory is so huge, almost 1 million votes, 994 or so votes. And this is not counting one constituency, Mandevu, which was not added to the total because of some problems there. And that says a lot. It says a lot about Zambian democracy. And indeed, it's a window of change. Mr. Hichilema himself has said, change has come. And we hope that the expectations of the voters will actually be honored. People will actually see change and real change in not long from now. And we've been promised that. I think the Zambians will be checking, and he was assuring us yesterday that keep on checking and ticking what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. So we hope that the freedoms will be restored, people will be free to talk, because people were really suffocated with fear. People were not able to, demonstrate, not able to meet, and they get an impression that this is only one-party state in Zambia. But here it is. Actually, all these people are unhappy about these things, and they've expressed them through their vote on Thursday last week.
Dr. Simutanyi, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed. I'm sure that there are viewers in some countries that hope that that wind of change will blow their way quite soon. Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts today.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, so that's Zambia. A new era has begun. Change has been voted for, and we'll see what happens in the next chapter of that country's life.